Hey, it's Miguel with Keys Real Estate, and today we're talking about the Assignment of Agreement Addendum. This is also known as the C.A.R forms AOAA. And this form comes into play when a buyer in contract wants to add, remove, or replace a buyer. Basically, when the rights to a deal are being reassigned to someone else. It's a simple two-page form, but it's a huge implication. Let's go through it line by line. So when do you use this form? This form is used when making changes to the buyer listed in the purchase agreement, like adding a new buyer, removing an old buyer, or transferring the purchase rights to a new entity. So, example, you have a deal in escrow, and the buyer decides to close under their LLC or family trust instead of their personal name. Boom. You use the AOAA to make that adjustment. Now, here's in section 1, right, we see partial or total assignment. A partial assignment, you're just adding someone new, maybe a spouse, a partner, or investor. The original buyer stays on the deal. Now, number B, or section number B, letter B, total assignment, replacing all buyers. The original buyer transfers 100% of their rights to the new buyer. Really simple. And then we have C, other assignment. This is used when one buyer is removed, but another buyer stays, or if there are splitting interests among multiple buyers. D, assigning names. You will list the new buyers being added right here. And then E is buyer's own entity. Check this if the assignee is the buyer's own trust or LLC. For example, Miguel Marte is assigning the contract to Marte Living Trust. Now, pro tip, if you're just switching to a trust or a wholly owned LLC, it's usually considered a non-material assignment, but always get seller consent unless your purchase contract specifically says it's allowed, right? Now, prior documents, this section keeps the paper trail clean. It requires new buyers, the assignee, to initial every document that was part of the original deal. The offer, disclosures, inspection reports, all of it. That way, the new buyer acknowledges they've seen and agreed to everything that's already been approved. Now, A, delivery options. Either the assignee already received all prior documents or the seller provides a signed copy of the addendum first, and then the buyer delivers everything to the new assignee, right? Pre-qualification. If financing is involved, the new buyer must be pre-approved by the same lender, even if the buyer's own entity and the lender has to sign off. Timelines. The assignee must return all initial documents within 3 days of getting the seller's signed copy. If they don't, seller can issue a notice to perform and cancel this agreement. So no extensions, timelines from the original contract, it still applies. If we have 5 days home inspection or any of these, we have to keep the same days. It doesn't start brand new because we add a new buyer. Now, the consideration for the assignment, here is where it gets real. This section asks whether the buyer is getting any money for transferring their contract. If it's a simple trust transfer or adding a partner, usually no money changes hands. But if you're flipping paper, you're a wholesaler, meaning assigning the deal to another investor for profit, you'd disclose the assignment fee here. So, if I am in contract to buy this property for $100,000 and a friend of mine decides he wants it more than I do, and I sell him the contract for $120,000, I will have to put the $20,000 here in the assignment fee, right? So again, if buyer receives $20,000, Transparency is key, especially if the seller needs to approve this. Now, section 4 to 6, responsibilities after assignment. 4, the assignee confirms they adopt everything the original buyer did, all approvals, disclosures, and actions up to that date. The new buyer agrees to perform all remaining obligations under the contract. And then 6, the original buyer still remains on the lookout. Even after assignment, that means that if a new buyer defaults, the seller can still pursue the original buyer too. So even if the seller consents, the first buyer doesn't walk away free. This thing has to close. Now, additional terms. This section is a blank line for any custom terms. An example, a seller approved required before any further assignment, or assignment valid only upon a lender's written consent. Keep it specific and clean. Now, seller's consent and acknowledgement. This confirms that the seller is aware of the assignment and is either consenting or non-consenting. Right? He says it's a go or it's not a go. Even if the seller signs here and doesn't release the original buyer from the obligation, that's the major detail agents often miss. Finally, both the buyer, assignee, and seller sign below, and they make it official. Entity assignment section, there's a section here that if the new buyer is an LLC or corporation, you fill out the whole entity name, signer, and proof of authority. The person signing must deliver evidence, like articles of organization or trust certifications, within 3 days of signing this addendum. So, that's the assignment of agreement addendum, the form that makes it legal and clean when a buyer wants to reassign their deal. Usually wholesalers will use this form. It's also about keeping the timeline tight, keeping everyone informed, and making sure no one gets released from their obligations they still owe. It's Miguel Marte with Keys Real Estate, breaking down California real estate forms one line at a time so we can move smart, stay compliant, and close confidently. Peace out.